talk science in that story and say, because now we have girl students doing the engineering, girl students reading the science, but there was a time when the women are not even allowed to educate, forget about the science education. So this way the literature brings change, it facilitates communication, social dialogue, so that we can talk about the problematics of society. Let me go ahead. The next slide, which again continues. Here again, Ruqayya Sakawat Hussain is continuing the story, talking about women education and their participation in science. She said, our good queen liked science very much. She circulated an order that all the women in her country should be educated. Accordingly, a number of girls' schools were founded and supported by the government. This is a vision. Whether it was reality or not, but this author could give that vision, could expect that social sentiment, that how do women think about the education? Why do they feel quite suffocated, and why do they want to come out of their domestic boundaries so that they can be educated? So education was spread far and wide among women, and early marriage also was stopped. So see, she is referring to one social evil, that is a child marriage, which led to, of course, other kind of issues also. So she continues, no woman was to be allowed to marry before she was 21. I must tell you that before this change, we had been kept in strict parda. So there was parda earlier, but now here author is talking about a ladyland where women are free, they're studying in the universities, they are doing experimentation, they are free to choose their life partner after a certain age. There is no social rule imposed upon them of the early marriage. So these kind of things, are projected in the literature very imaginatively, that make you think. And so that's why I come back to the same point, that literature makes you think. And this is important because you need to think in terms of individuals, interpersonal relationships, society, and cultural values. Anyone who would like to say anything at this point? I am going to the next slide, but if you have any questions. Hope you are enjoying my presentation. You are able to get my point?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Okay. Now let me continue with my second key term which I have taken, that is creativity. Now this, how literature exhibits creativity, that I would like to again explain with the help of an example. I would take up Shakespeare, Romeo and Juliet. Yes, sir.
excuse ma'am, one question is that
Yes.
have you just general question, ma'am, that is have you met any guy or a person that this type of guy that means you can say that what we can say, just not pretend, ma'am, you have said the example of previous that many of parents or said that why we should first of all we should tell the girls to not go there.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, ma'am, this type of mentality, how we can change this type of mentality?
Very good question. What is your name?
Ma'am, Punarvashu.
Punarvasu. Okay, Punarvasu, very good question. What I could get from your statement is that you are actually interested in knowing, like, can we have these kind of, let's say, guy, you said that boy who would be positive in his attitude, right? Something like
Yes,
that.
ma'am. Yes,
He
ma'am.
can change the mentality and all. Punarvasu, I have witnessed a change, great change, especially like even in my classroom. I will not go far because see, the change starts from your own life, from your
Yes.
own family, from your own institutions and all. Because I do not believe changing the status is not practically possible.
Yes, ma'am.
Even I am very apprehensive of lot many things. I may talk about the women's freedom and all, but there are many critical questions. Even in case of my daughter, so this is something very practical that happens. So this way the change could happen when there is a social sentiment about it. Nowadays there are so many media platform also available, and you must have seen these hashtag movements and all, whether it is Black Lives Matter in USA that start from there,
Yes.
or just Me Too movement that happens and all. So there are different platforms. So definitely we will have to bring the change from our own surroundings. So earlier, I have seen the generation, let's say my grandfather, my grandmother, my aunts and all, they were not allowed to go for the education. I had my relatives, elder generation, back generation, they were not allowed to go for that. But today, see, I give you the example of my daughter. She's doing engineering in computer science, right? So the time has changed. So what has made this change possible? The parents, or the other people who are supportive. So basically, you are talking about that. How can we change the mentality? My answer is first you need to acknowledge that you are wrong. You see the the movies which are there. You would find that there is so much teasing which is projected there, and there is we ourselves. There was a generation which did not find anything wrong into that. They said it's okay. This is the society. 18 साल की है तो आपको शादी करनी है लड़की की. So this was the mentality. Do you think that we have this kind of mentality? Now it is changed because we acknowledge that this mentality is wrong. So what you are saying that how can we change it? The moment, and I have lot of faith in the young generation, like you people. If I can change you, if I can have this kind of gender sensitivity in you, आपके बैच के साथ अगर आज मेरा सोशल डायलॉग है, I have had an interaction. If I can bring some kind of gender sensitivity in you people and you start taking steps, आपके कॉलेज में कोई टीजिंग होती है और आप लोग सब मिलकर के उसको अगेंस्ट में कुछ बोलते हो, this is the change, and that will start. And then having these kind of instances. So I have seen the people who have been quite supportive to the girl. I mean, I'm not saying that this is the fault of that, but you will have to acknowledge. हमारी सोसाइटी की प्रॉब्लम है कि हम यही नहीं मानना चाहते कि हम गलत हैं. So the moment you acknowledge, think objectively. You are a scientist. Think objectively and say that what is right and what is wrong. So if you objectively, and then values also come. They also play a major role. So you will have to change the cultural values. अगर आपको वो चाइल्ड मैरिज अगर आपको गलत लगती है, you will have to raise your voice, you will have to change that cultural value, and then gradually society will change. So this is my answer, that the change would happen if you acknowledge what is wrong and you are bold enough to speak against that wrong. And this speaking against wrong is done through the literature very majorly. क्योंकि शायद बोलते में डर लगे आपको, लेकिन आप एक किताब लिख देते हो, and in that book you may raise some questions which perhaps would make other people think about it. तभी तो फतवे जारी हो जाते हैं. There are different kind of verdicts which are passed by the authority. So I am really happy that you raised this question, and that shows that how sensitive you are to the social issue. I hope you got my answer.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, I got that.
Yeah. So that way, perhaps, yeah. Any other question?
One thing is for sure that in every house there is a woman, which we call mom. Well,
Yeah.
she always put on leg.
Yes, you call mom. I'm not getting your question.
She always asks, "Don't do this. Don't go there. Don't."
Yeah. Mothers are like that only. I being mother also have a lot of quarrels with my daughter. But anyway, what I'm saying, yeah, I agree with your point. You will. There are two things involved into that. There are two things involved into that, beta. There are some girls also who misuse that right or that freedom which is given to that. I said acknowledge it. Be honest, and then yeah.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes, one by one.
Give compliment to each other. Give words to encourage and empower, ma'am.
Yeah.
Hi, we all know that you may be not control all the event that what happened to you, but
Yeah.
you can decide not to be reduced by them, by someone.
Yeah, I agree with your point, and that's why I always say that if you think that there is something wrong in the mentality of, let's say, the mother, because the mother figure appears at that point controlling and restricting, then you will have to logically prove that. You will have to logically establish that. There have been the whole feminist movement to get this freedom. एकदम से नहीं आई ना, अधिकार तो लेने से मिलता है. So if you think that you are right, then you will have to prove your point rationally. You will have to prove yourself to get that, what you deserve. And there have been people who have done it. So this way, this
Yes.
is, and that's why, see, yeah, that's why, this is the dialogue. But if you think that if you can do it through the monologue, one way speech would not work. You will have to make the other party participate into that. There should be a dialogue so that you can clear those points. There are different issues, and that's why I am taking up this issue of the complexity also. I said, the complexity. So this it will remain there. So dialogue should continue, and I'm sure that you will gain something out of that. If you are logical, if you are honest, if you have values, then definitely you will get success into what you want. Because if you have talent, you have honesty, nobody can stop you from getting what you deserve. This is something which I strongly believe in. But I agree with your point that there are conflicts. Yes, there are conflicts and they will remain there because life itself is a conflict. It's a synonym of the conflict. How can you expect all other people to think like you? How can you expect your mother to think the same way as you are thinking? Because she had another exposure, you have another exposure. She saw another time, you are different time. So that's why what is necessary to cultivate a dialogue, to make that dialogue happen between the two. And then definitely there will be some positive result out of it. So this life will go on that way. Any other question?
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes.
And what is the meaning of misuse of freedom that you used just few time?
See, misuse of the freedom is something, lying to, if you have courage enough, speak things boldly. Because I have seen the people who do lie. So this is misuse with that when you are allowed to do something. And this is not applicable to girl only, dear. This is applicable to all, to the boys also. You say something and do something. If you have hypocrisy in your behavior because you are selfish enough to get your things done, this is misuse. If you are honest, you are bold, you are straight, you are clear, you make your own choices, be open with that and say. So this is misuse of freedom. You will have to somewhere determine the values. I am not conservative. I am not that kind of person who is imposing old generation value upon new generation. No, not at all. New generation is going to have its own value. But there are certain values which are everlasting. सच तो सच है, honesty honesty है, deception है. So this way, you have this Sushant Singh case go out and then they are taking drugs and all. I don't know what happened. I don't know about the details. I do not follow all those things. But think, if you are, using that, what kind of positivity you are giving to the society. So this way, I'm not the person to judge anyone. Everyone has freedom to decide. But then, if there is freedom, there are rights. It brings a responsibility also. That brings the repercussions also. आप बाद में आके ये मत कहना कि भाई ऐसा हो गया. You are born for that, and if you do that, then you will have to be very, very careful with it. So this way, you will have to think logically. You will have to determine the values, and you will have to be acknowledge what is right or what is wrong. And I am nowhere impose any old generation orthodox sentiment or the thinking on the new generation. Time changes. It is not as it was during my grandfather's time, and it is not going to happen the same during my grandchildren's time. So this is life. Life is a flux. Life will change. You read literature, and you would find that that gives you the reflection of it. How life changed. Anyways, I think I have given limited time because it is already 12:29, and as we are talking about the change in the time, so let me complete this one more case study, which is dealing with the creativity, and at the end of this, I will take the question. Right? Okay? Can I go ahead? Because I think I won't be able to take up the third case study. We are having only half an hour. But let me talk about the creativity which is reflected in literature. And I have taken up this play, Romeo and Juliet. You have heard the story, of course, Romeo and Juliet, famous character. Is there anyone who has not heard these two names?
No one, ma'am.
I think everybody has heard it. So you can imagine that how powerful literature is. It has created two immortal characters, which is there across the cultures, which are present across the generations. So what is there in the play by Shakespeare, Romeo and Juliet? It is a story of young lovers from 16th century Verona, Italy. And what happens there in the play? There is a long-standing bitter feud between their families. There are two families, Montagues and Capulets, and these two families are rival to each other, and they keep, having sword fights, and then there is clashes, and then they don't want their children to be together. But these two young lovers fall in love. That they very secretly, and then ultimately that tragically. So this is the story of Romeo and Juliet. Now you can see the creativity involved into literature. Do you think that that story, that play, which was written in 16th century by Shakespeare, that ended with that time? No, it continued. It was everywhere. It was adapted. It came into different forms. And today also you can see its visual presentation on different media platforms. There have many film adaptations of this play, Romeo and Juliet. I'll give you the example of three adaptations. One adaptation that came in Franco Jeffrey's movie, that is 1968. This was again Romeo and Juliet, but it was a very traditional presentation of that Shakespeare's play on the stage. Then there was another movie by Baz Luhrmann. This movie came in 1996, and here you would find that this story remains same. That the spirit, that soul of the play remains there, but it comes into a completely new presentation. It's a new generation version of Romeo and Juliet in the modern setting. And this new audience, this 20th century modern audience, can easily relate to these two characters, Romeo and Juliet. So this way literature involves creativity. The stories do not die. The stories come into different forms. Same story would be transformed, would be adapted, would be added with new meanings, and would come into different forms, and it would remain forever. Then we have another version. This is again Romeo and Juliet's version, but this movie came in 2011. And interestingly, this was a 3D animation in parody version. And this was an animated movie for the child. Now that sounds very strange. How can the Romeo and Juliet be converted into the animated movie for a child? But that happened because it changed the concept to the extent that it was converted into a animated version of Shakespeare's play. That what kind of creativity? So I'll just give you the idea that what kind of creativity was involved into. I think it is again hand. Yeah. Now just see the poster. That will give you the idea that how Shakespeare's play was presented. This is Franco Jeffrey's version. And when you see this movie, you find that the characters are coming straight out of the Italian Renaissance. They have that look of Shakespearean drama because they are dressed into ornate clothes. You can see the picture, their dressing style, their hairstyle, and everything was, that in 16th century Italian form. And then you have the realistic sword fights where they will be carrying the swords and fighting with each other. And also this was a presentation. So this movie gave the real sense of Shakespeare's play, what Shakespeare wrote in the words. Although there were some, liberties also taken by the director because he made some changes in the script. There were many lines which were simplified because that Shakespearean English could not work with this new generation in the 1968. This is late 20th century. So people find it slightly difficult to understand Shakespearean English. So the story remains same, presentation remains same, but that language was changed. It was simplified to suit the taste and the understanding of the 20th century audience. And then text was so elaborate that some of the episodes were dropped and half of the text was used. But then if you get the chance, you can watch this movie and you will find Shakespeare's play come alive on celluloid. That grand scene of the Italian Renaissance time, where the palaces and the wonderful jewelry which was used by the characters and all. So you really get the taste. So that aesthetic, that enjoyment that is involved into watching the 16th century Europe, 16th century Italy there on screen through this Shakespeare's play, because this is again was a kind of creativity on the part of the director to adapt that play into the visual form. So this was, that stage play was converted into the movie on celluloid, and with that creativity which the author showed in changing the script to some extent, and dropping the episode and the dialogue, lengthy dialogue, because that may sound, but going to the 20th century, or he had the full, you can say, glimpse of the 16th century Italy. So that creativity is reflected here in this movie version. Now let's go to that another movie which again came as an adaptation of Romeo and Juliet. Here we have a very a changed presentation of Romeo. Here we do not have the Romeo using that same attire Italian Renaissance, but we are having Romeo who is having t-shirts and jeans and then having a gun in his hand. So that turned into more than just a romantic story. So what I am trying to point out here, that how literature remains as a part of cultural consciousness. Those stories remain there in the collective consciousness of the people. And these stories are presented differently with the help of the creativity, so that new cultural values can be presented. As the time changes, cultural values changes. So you could see that how literature became instrumental in showing that change in the culture. So we found that this original play was set in the Italy, that European country. But now this version of the Romeo and Juliet was set in the Verona Beach, which is a cross between Miami, New York, and Mexico City. So basically, the director showcased the values of American culture. So he turned this Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet into an action film. So you can see that how a romantic story is turned into the action film, where we have gun-wielding Romeo, where we have the gang fights, we have Montague family and their brandish gun, and they call that sword. There is some connection with the original play. They wear bright and casual clothes, and these two Montague families and Capulet family, they have the gang rivalry. They are basically the corporate business houses. Now you can see that this new generation audience can easily connect to that. So rivalry was there in the 16th century also, and rivalry was there in the 19th century, 20th century also. But the form of the rivalry, the presentation of the rivalry, that had changed as per the change in the culture and the cultural value. So we have these two families of Montague and Capulet as a rival corporation, and there is a lot of dramatic element which is fused into this presentation of Shakespeare's play. There is a contrast between the modern setting. So here, some of the characters would be using Shakespearean dialogue, which are actually conveying very subtle meaning. But at the same time, the background is modern. We have cars, we have skyscrapers, we have telephone booths, we have hot dog houses. So this is basically the modern setting, and that give a very creative presentation of Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet. And you can see that how the director deals with the additional thematic concerns. Earlier it was this romance, but here with romance are included hope, despair, the sense of despair and desperation, tragedy, and all these things were listed on the poster. So you come across with a very different presentation of Shakespeare's play in a different form, suited to the different set of audience, and telling you about the new cultural values which have come up with the change of the time. But the literature did not die. Literature became instrumental to convey those values. So what we have, as I said, these are the two more pictures. So basically, this rivalry was converted into the rivalry between the two corporate families. One was Anglo-Saxon family, another one is Hispanic family. If you are familiar with American culture, I think you must be knowing that America is a multicultural country. We have African Americans, the black people in America. Similarly, there is Hispanic community. Hispanic community is a Spanish people, those Americans who speak Spanish and they belong to that area. So Anglo-Saxon means those who are European, who have come straight from the European countries like England. So in America, these kind of cross-sectional rivalries are real. They happen there. You can see the police somewhere trying to intervene in the gang wars and all. So that Shakespeare's play of Romeo and Juliet is presented so creatively to convey that how the culture has changed. We had the same romance, we had the same rivalry, but it comes up into a very different form where we have this modern setting. And not only setting, the modern music track was also used. There were different images, like the images that allude to crime drama, music videos, action thrillers, and reality TV series, fairy tales, advertisements, billboards. So this way, the whole setup was very creatively changed to connect to the contemporary audience, so that they can get the gist of the Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet, but at the same time they remain connected with the cultural reality of their own time, where they can see the relevance of Shakespeare's story into modern times. And so we have this kind of picture. So just see this Romeo. This is new Romeo. American Romeo basically. So this Italian Romeo Shakespeare is converted into American Romeo, Anglo-Saxon, belonging to Anglo-Saxon community. So this love story is creatively converted into more than love story, and it comments, the whole presentation comments on the 20th century cultural values. So this way you find that how literature is creatively, first of all, literature itself is creative, and then it is creatively dealt with generating more stories from stories. So one story generates another story. Just the last example, that is about this 3D animated version, Romeo and Juliet. So what happens there, when this animated movie begins, there are two groups, red gnomes and blue gnomes. Gnomes are the basically that the fairy creatures, and I think the image also shows that how do they look like. So these two groups have a kind of rivalry between them. Now red gnome announces the story you are about to see has been told before a lot. It's not a new story. It's the same story coming again and again into new form. And now this is the children version, where we have 3D animated transformation, which is start warring. Warring means rivalry or fighting with each other. These are the warring gnomes. And what do they rival about? What do they war about? These are the garden gnomes. These are legendary dwarfish creatures, and they have two households, again Montague and Capulets, and they are basically the garden gnomes who have their gardens, respective gardens, on Stratford upon Avon. This is the place where Shakespeare was born. So see how imaginatively the director referred to that place where Shakespeare was born, because this story was born at that place. It was born into the mind of Shakespeare. So at Stratford upon Avon, there is this the garden rivalry between these two garden gnomes group, and they try to outdo each other. What they do? One group creates a wonderful garden for them, very beautiful, well arranged. The other one try to outbuy. There's a competition, a cutthroat competition between the two. So they would again elaborate their garden differently, and they would come up with a new garden, more ornamented, more beautiful, more decorated. Then the first group would again change the garden setting, and they would come up with wonderful setting again. So this way, this is basically this feeling of competition, the spirit of competition, or maybe you can call sportsmanship, because this is not about the gang war. This is not about the tragic love story. These children are made aware of, or are made sensitive to this kind of competition, very healthy competition, which is basically the sportsmanship, where children try to outvoy each other. They try to defeat each other, whether it is a small game of Ludo or maybe some other game, snake and ladder, or here you can see this garden competition. Each group is trying to showcase one's garden setting as the best, and this spirit of competition is conveyed to the children as an audience there by the director. So you have a very different adaptation of the Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet, which is converted into Romeo and Juliet. So the blue group is called the Romeo group, and the red group was called the Juliet group. And this competition, even there's a competition between boys and girls also. There's a competition between, let's say, across gender. You have mixed group of boys and girls. जैसे अंतराक्षी में group बनाते हैं. So these kind of things. So that sportsmanship, that spirit of the sportsmanship was conveyed through that adaptation of the Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet. So these are, a few case studies. Actually, third would be too long. I don't think that I have sufficient time to dwell on that because I have just 15 minutes left. I was doing 1 hour. So maybe I stop here to give you the opportunity to ask anything if you would like to. Any question from student side?
Not question, ma'am. I want to give some answer. One of the participants asked that how the misuse of freedom. Ma'am, one example is that if a girl go for the brother marriage, and then she will ask that ma'am, the dowry system. We all know that the dowry system is against the law. But when girls go for the marriage of brother, she will first say that if you will give this much of amount, then the marriage will happen. And this shows the hypocrisy nature of the human beings, and this is the where the freedom of speech, ma'am, you can say that the misuse. That girl have convinced that parents that this is against the law, this is not for good for the society and ourself. She should not have particularly saying that for that girl also, the whole the family, because we all know that from the ma'am we can't change that so much mind of our old generation.
Yes,
But we have to
this
but we have
change actually, of
yeah,
course, change lies with us only. Once, one boy asked a question in one of the meetings that I was holding this, because in our university it is called SPERSH cell, that is Sensitization, Prevention and Redressal of Sexual Harassment. So that was basically a program organized by that cell. It was about gender sensitivity and all. So one of the boys said, ma'am, when would this dowry system stop? So I answered to that boy, the day you will stop taking it and you will say that I'll marry the girl without taking dowry. मैंने कहा जिस दिन आप मना कर दोगे उस दिन पहला कदम तो उसी दिशा में उसी दिन बढ़ जाएगा. So this is something, change begins with us. And I would not generalize. I mean, I would not put blame on any boy or the girl because I never believe into generalization as such. अलग-अलग तरीके के लोग होते हैं sir. There are many factors that work behind that. Even this whole, forget about the dowry system in such as being given. The cases of the divorce after the, on the pretext of the dowry and all, because there were a lot of complaints that the girls misused this law, of this dowry. There were many families which were put into the prison and all. So, again, when I was handling this session, I said that I am not with anybody. I'm just thinking straight because I think through literature, I think through stories. So, I'm thinking straight and I am actually giving you the idea that what happens, in general. So, I just said that when you talk about the law, because there is one law that was made to protect the girls, because they were burnt alive, that was the case. So you see the newspaper, there were so many girls who were burnt alive, and that's why the law came. जिसे कहते हैं आग होता है तभी धुआं होता है. So first of all, why was there a need to bring this law? This need arose because there was some kind of situation. You see the statistics. That's why this kind of law came. तो ये law बना ही इसलिए क्योंकि आपने इस तरीके की situation को society में promote किया. And you cannot say I am not a part of it. Being a part of the society, we all are equally responsible for all kind of practices which happen there. So इसलिए ये कानून आया. अब ये प्रश्न आता है कि अब इसका मिसयूज होता है गर्ल्स के द्वारा. तो मैं उस पर ये भी कहती हूँ कि like you tell me which law is not misused. Every law is misused. Okay, so if there is a misuse, stop it. I am with the boy. I am with the boy's family. If that girl is using that law, to let's say for the financial benefit or for some hidden motive, then I am with the boy. I am never with the girl. See, everyone is connected. If I have a daughter, I have a son also. If I am a woman, then I have husband also, brother also, father also. We cannot live in isolation. We are connected to each other, and that's why it is better that if we think objectively and we think with values. So values, again, I'm not telling 18th century value, 16th century value. You need to know those values so that you gain knowledge about it. But ultimately, there are certain values. Truth is truth. Lie
Yes.
is lie. Honesty means honesty. Hypocrisy means hypocrisy. No matter in what form you actually demonstrate that. So you will have to correct yourself before you correct the society. So this is my stand basically.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
thank you, sir, for contributing to the
Basically, ma'am,
discussion.
I am also saying like that, ma'am. Firstly, we have to change in ourselves. It
Exactly.
means that in whole the family we have to first of all change, other than
Yes,
the society
exactly.
changing or the
So
world changing.
you change yourself.
Yes, ma'am.
This is the first step. Second step is when there is something wrong in front of you, you speak up. If you keep mum, then you also participate into that. At least to your level. Maybe we are not so much empowered. Maybe we may have our own limitations and all. Somewhere you need to make the adjustment and all. Compromises, have become the synonym of the life. All those things I have that happen. But still there is a scope for something good. You cannot deny that there is nothing available as such. So if there is something wrong, let's speak for that. So even in case of like this harassment and inequality and all, if all the boys and girls come together and oppose that, I'm sure that the things will change. So these are, something. This is the kind of sensitivity which I am able to generate or cultivate and impart to my students by reading literature. And that's why I always put literature, as a high altar, because it gives you the understanding of people and life experiences and so on. Any other observation? Any other question from your side, students?
Ma'am, thank you, ma'am. Me from my side, ma'am. Thank you.
Yes. What's your name? What's your name? I'm not getting it. Ratnesh. Okay, Ratnesh. Yes, Ratnesh. Hmm. Yes. Hmm. I this is, you are talking about the challenges which are there, Ratnesh. I agree with that, and I would not say that suddenly the whole society would become perfect, because it cannot happen. So I would suggest just keep trying. That's it. You can do at your own level, but doing something, even a fragment of it, is better than doing nothing. So that is my, uh, stand most of the time. So even I cannot change the society altogether. We have practical problems, and you will have to go. Like, see, when we talk about the Vishaka guidelines and all, so it took years to have those Vishaka guidelines first, and then putting them into the legal frame. And when did it come into the legal frame? When this Nirbhaya case happened. So why do we wait for such kind of extreme monstrous thing to happen to take an action? If you can stop it at the first step, then perhaps the things will be better. But it does not happen. So what else, or what alternative is left with you? So you will have to keep trying to keep, raising your voice against the wrong thing and all. So it takes time. But you cannot say that nothing could happen, because I can see the change in the generations. As I said, that my grandfather's generation is different from my parents' generation. My generation is different from my parents' generation, and my grandchildren's generation is going to happen. And then they would have another kind of difficulty. Again, it's not perfect. This is humanity. That's why I would say that in science you can find absolute answers. In science you can perhaps make a law कि आप ऊपर से चीज फेंकोगे तो नीचे गिरेगी, because there is a gravitational force. So you can have these kind of laws within science, but all laws sometimes fail in terms of the humanity. Human behavior is so unpredictable. Human beings itself are the subject of the study, no doubt about that. But that is so dynamic that you will have to deal them with the context. And that's why sometimes I say we need to cultivate context sensitive अंडरस्टैंडिंग. एक ही चीज जो एक जगह सही होती है वो दूसरी जगह गलत हो जाती है, और वही चीज दूसरे मायने रखती है तीसरे कॉन्टेक्स्ट में. So this does not happen in the science. This happens in the humanities. Why? Because in humanities, the context actually changes the meaning. Again, I'll give you a simple example. It's a train to Pakistan, which is talking about the partition. Suppose there is one family that takes shelter into your house. There is, a lot of killing and bloodshed outside, and somebody is asking for that. Where is that family? We would kill that. So if you need to lie, then you will have to lie. अगर उनकी जान बचाने के लिए झूठ बोलना पड़ता है, तब उसको आप सही या गलत कहाँ से डिसाइड करोगे? Again, you will take, but there is something goodness in that which would justify your action. So these are the practical issues. So things do not work in humanities like in sciences. And this is the different approach that literature helps you to cultivate. So that is something, perhaps the significance of this whole workshop and the presentation. I'm so happy that Dr. Amol arranged or organized, this conference, this workshop. So this is something which I would like to tell you, that there are other kind of skills also which we need to acquire, and that perhaps literature will help you. So if we think through the stories, we would be better understanding the people and the life situation. Thank you.
Okay.
Anybody else? Already 12:56, I suppose. I am done with my time.
Tulsi. Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Call for the vote of thanks.
Now, I would like to call upon my friend Amit Kumar to propose the vote of thanks to Dr. Bhumika Sharma ma'am for gracing today's session with interesting and valuable information.
Thank you, Tulsi, for this. Very good afternoon to one and all present here. I deem it a great honor and privilege to propose the vote of thanks on this memorable occasion. Let me first of all start by giving.
Lost the connection again.
Hello? Am I audible?
I'm not getting worried.
Yes, you are audible, but I think madam is not getting.
Okay, sir.
Hello?
Madam.
There was the connection. Now I am able to hear the voice.
Okay.
Okay, ma'am. A very good afternoon to one and all present here. I deem it a great honor and privilege to propose the vote of thanks on this memorable occasion. Let me first of all start by giving glory to the Almighty God for making today's workshop a resounding success. First and foremost, I thank our special guest, Dr. Bhumika Sharma ma'am, who despite of her busy schedule has found time for this workshop. Thank ma'am for your kind word, and we all learned a lot from this workshop. I would like to thank our beloved Dr. Amol Bhutte sir for organizing this workshop under the guidance of our principal sir, Dr. Anil Kumar. My heartfelt thanks to the head of the various departments and the faculty for their valuable contribution, guidance, and encouragement in all our effort. Last but not the least, I thank you all my friends for your cooperation and making this workshop a resounding success. Finally, I leave you with this inspiring quotes by Mahatma Gandhi. Your belief become your word. Your belief become your thought become your word become your action become your habit become your value become your destiny. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was very nicely put up vote of thanks.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
sir. I think now I can exit the meeting, sir.
Yes, madam. Thank you for giving your valuable time. Okay.
Thank you, sir, for giving this opportunity to interact with the students. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. We will meet in the second session. Okay. All participants, we will meet in our second session. Okay. At 2 o'clock.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Till then, bye.